I've made this time portal so that you can jump 20 years into the future and save this country. Orochi will be here any second. Hurry, Momonosuke, jump in. Retainers, you too. Come back and save this place. The borders of the Wano country must be opened. Kinemon, this was the only way. Hello, everybody. I have to say that I've never felt this excited while at the same time feeling this terrified about a concept being implemented in the plot of One Piece. So it's like I'm terrified and excited simultaneously, and here's why. Time travel, if you do it well, you can do amazing things with it. You can really use it to evoke emotion in your story, because in a lot of cases, time traveling is used as a way of healing wounds from the past, which is exactly what I think Oda will be trying to do here. Time traveling is a beautiful and dangerous thing, because if you do it wrong and you don't plan ahead well and you're lazy about it and you drop the ball, it could potentially ruin the continuity of your story, create a bunch of plot holes, and just ruin the timeline of your story. So you have to be very, very careful. You have to be like a surgeon when it comes to introducing time traveling into a narrative. However, given the fact that Oda has proven himself to be a master at foreshadowing, a master at planning, I have nothing but full faith that he can execute this concept properly. And I mean, just thinking about how Kinemon and Momonosuke were introduced back in Punk Hazard. I mean, that's how early on we got to meet them. And then we went on to different islands to pick up a samurai in each island. We got Kanjiro in Dressrosa, and then later we got Raizo in Zou. It almost felt like a video game where, like, after you collect all of the samurai visiting different islands, that's when you find out about the past. You know, it's kind of like, okay, you got Raizo, Kinemon, Kanjiro, Momonosuke, and Okiku. Once you've gathered those 5, you have now unlocked Odin's past. Congratulations! The point of the matter here being that Oda has been planning this for a while. It's obvious. We got the Straw Hat Grand Fleet in the cover there, the final members that were remaining. So that's going to do it for that, meaning that next week we're either going to get a color spread, a new cover arc, or Oda's going to start taking requests from fans. I kind of want to know what the 3 bone X's on Ideo's Jolly Roger represent. He has 4 crosses tattooed across his chest, so why 3? Why 3 X's? We start off with Tama and her apple riding on speed, going back home. And Luffy tells her to say hi to Hitetsu, and also that he wants to keep the Nidai Kitetsu a little longer because he wants to pretend to be a samurai, to which Zoro replies, "You haven't even used it, can I please see it already?" We all know that sword is going to go to Zoro. But anyway, speaking of Otama's home, which is Amigasa Village, I already have a question about that, time-wise, like timeline-wise. So we know that Odin and the Kazuki clan, or the Odin's castle, fell 20 years ago. But Drake was in charge, or he was part of, destroying Amigasa Village. So why did it take Orochi and Kaido so long, alright, to attack Amigasa Village? We know that Amigasa Village was destroyed during the time skip because Drake hadn't joined Kaido's forces prior to that. So Amigasa Village was destroyed during the 2-year time skip, and it's kind of like, why were they waiting this long to destroy that village? Or rather, what caused them, what motivated them to give the order to destroy that village? Was there something there? Was there something that happened? Because if they wanted that village gone, they could have destroyed it like 20 years ago. So according to Luffy, Tama didn't use her Dango ability on the Komainu. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to give it orders or whatever. Which we kind of already knew. Like, it was already responding to other people aside from Otama. So this means that Otama befriended the Komainu naturally. I kind of wonder how she did that. The people of Okobore Town are happy because they don't have to think about ending their children's lives or their own, like we saw in the last chapter. That was pretty dark. And Zoro mentioned something that we all kind of assume that this is the reason why he didn't defend Okiku during the sumo wrestling chaos part of the arc, where he would just stand back and be like, "I'm not going to take care of you. You do your thing, because I know you're hiding something." And also Luffy says, "You're strong." Okay? When Luffy says you're strong, that's not to be taken lightly. I've only heard Luffy use the word strong to describe somebody when they truly are strong. Like, I remember back in Dressrosa, before Fujitora was revealed to be an admiral, he said that guy is strong. He talked about Inuarashi that way. He's like, hey, you're pretty strong, right? And at one point he talked about Sanji that way as well, when he said like, we need to go back to Whole Cake Island because Sanji's really strong and we need to get him back. So when Luffy tells her, you're a strong, good person, that's something, all right? Also, speaking of Okiku, I remember that, I think it was chapter 914, Otsuru specifically says that Okiku has been there for a month. So does that mean that the time jump happened a month ago? What I'm trying to ask is, did they arrive in the present a month ago? Anyway, the people of Okobore Town are now happy because they're well fed, at least for the time being, and then Luffy and his friends leave. And I have to say that Law was on point in this chapter with the fake ghost hype. That's a side of Law that I've never seen before. It was funny. Ooh, Mugiwara-ya. Have you heard the legend of the samurai ghost with explosive diarrhea? We go to school next, where the kids are being indoctrinated into thinking that borders are good and inclusivity is a bad thing. Wano is based on Japan, and at one point, Japan adopted very, very strong, very fixed isolationist policies in regards to its borders and the rest of the world. So that's a reference to that. The United States at one point, specifically like before World War I and World War II, that's where it was leaning towards, like becoming a more isolationist type of country. Currently, the United States has tried a little bit to try and go back a little bit towards being a little bit more isolationist, but it's just not going to happen because the country is completely split. We are too connected to the rest of the world because of the internet and other things, social media, economically as well. Like, we depend on other countries and other countries depend on us for trade and money and goods and stuff. But also, people can't agree on what's right and wrong anymore. So, good luck with that. Anyway, the teacher in the classroom can either be a snake neck, like the ones that we saw in Whole Cake Island, or because this is Wano and Oda has drawn a lot of inspiration from Japanese folklore, it could also be a creature known as the Roku Rokubi, which is a yokai. Wikipedia says it's like an apparition, and some of them have the ability to stretch out their necks. So she's either a snake neck or a Roku Rokubi, mythical Zoan type devil fruit user. Now, because of her tongue, I'm more willing to say that she's actually a snake neck. Still in the flower capital, we get introduced to this character called Kiyoshiro, and I kind of get the feeling that he's going to be an antagonist, or that he is an antagonist, for two main reasons. Number one, he starts laughing at the fact that the Kazuki clan was burned alive. That's not something a very friendly person would say, at least not friendly to the protagonists. Also, he's in this exchange house, and this place belongs to the Kurosumi family, Kurosumi being Orochi's last name. So this place belongs to the shogun. He's obviously drunk, so he's just being reckless with what he says. And also Robin is there, and Robin was sort of entrusted with the task of infiltrating the headquarters of Orochi, of the shogun. And I've said this before, but I think it's very clear that the reason for this is because there's a red poneglyph, inside of the private headquarters of the shogun. So this guy, Kiyoshiro, is either a subordinate of the shogun, or he's actually playing along and just pretending to be one, to infiltrate just like Robin. And I'm only saying this because Kinemon did say back in Zou that they had friends back in Wano that were trying to resist the oppression. Okiku being one of them, obviously. And apparently she has kind of a crush on Kinemon. At least that's how I read it, with the little heart symbols there. Yeah, but this guy Kiyoshiro, he's kind of ambiguous, but right now I'm leaning towards him being an antagonist very heavily, because he calls Orochi Lord, and he also laughs about Odin and his people being burned alive. So he talks about this prophecy that Odin's wife made before she died about 9 samurai, 9 shadows showing up to take down Orochi. And by the way, maybe it was actually her who performed the time ritual for them to get away 20 years into the future. Maybe she was the one with the time turner, the chrono no mi, and she turned to the rest and she was like, you know what to do, guys. Get out of here. I'll buy you some time. Also, just to clarify, I was kind of fooling around with the Doctor Strange thing, just because we know for a fact, I think it's very clear that Momonosuke has to see Odin die, because he was traumatized, like along with, the rest of the samurai. And so I'm pretty sure the time jump had to happen after Odin's death. However, who made that time jump possible is still up for debate. Another thing that we know here is that Momonosuke saw Kaido before his father's death. So Oden was still alive when Momonosuke saw Kaido, because Kaido tells Momonosuke, your father is a foolish lord. Notice that he says is, not was, which means that at that point Oden was still alive. Personally, I happen to think that if there is some type of time manipulation going on, I hope that it's only used this once, that it's grounded and it's only used to send the samurai this once, and that's the only thing and the only example of it being used in the series. Because if it can be used later on, I mean, imagine the implications for that, just for the entire story. That would be crazy. That'd be crazy. You could, again, if you do it right, it can be epic, but it could also get very messy. So I hope it's just this once. And I also, because it's such a broken ability, I hope that it has something to do with an ancient weapon. Anyway, the prophecy speaks about a new dawn. And the word dawn, new dawn, the dawn that was promised, this is a phrase or a word that is very, very strongly connected with the will of D. We've heard other people mention it. The Minks and the Kazuki clan primarily have been waiting for this thing to happen. Pedro gave up his life for it. The prophecy also speaks about this going down during a moonlit night, which only serves to confirm that the Minks have been waiting on this day because they can use the light of the full moon to go full-on Sulong form, Sulong mode, and start attacking. Orochi said, we'll get Jack back, we'll fight back, and they'll know what it's like to fight the Ming tribe. We'll show them the full power of the Ming tribe. And speaking of Inuarashi, where is he? I mean, I'm pretty sure he was with Momonosuke last time. I don't know where they parked the elephant. That's a pretty big elephant to hide. But they're probably just waiting for the full moon at some point just to have the elephant barge in there. And then we also have a reference to 9 shadows, 9 figures, 9 samurai. And so my first impulse when I read that was to go, well, gee, if only we had 9 people that had sworn to try and take down Kaido on behalf of the people of Wano, on behalf of Momonosuke. And so my mind automatically went to the Straw Hats being these 9 figures, these 9 shadows. And look, listen, if that's the case, these bounties are about to go up like crazy after this arc. Now, the prophecy doesn't necessarily have to be about the Straw Hats. It could be about other people, other characters. Just a combination of 9 people. I'm thinking people with swords. I think there's a reason for why in the beginning of this chapter, Luffy specifically tells Tama, like, just leave this sword with me because I can't be a samurai without it after all. So, maybe there's something to that. So maybe like, people like Kiku, Kinemon, Law even. Does Kid have a sword? I don't think so, right? Hawkins has a sword. Now here's the thing. If the prophecy is in fact talking about the Straw Hats, at one point during the school scene, one of the kids says, he yells out, it was Odin and the 9 red scabbards. So according to the history books, it was the leader of the group plus 9 for a total of 10. However, when Kiyoshido talks about it, he just says it's 9. It's 9 samurai. So is it 9 total or 10 total? Because, I'll repeat this, if the prophecy refers to the Straw Hats and they actually mean the leader plus 9, okay, then that means either Jinbei is going to come back in this arc, or we're going to get a new Nakama. I've talked about before about how I think it's very likely that after this arc is over, Luffy will officially have 2 territories that are under his protection, and that's Fishman Island and Wano, okay? And if you look at like Fishman Island and compare it to Wano, there's a lot of similarities in the sense that those are very heavy political arcs. Fishman Island was about racism, the men versus fishmen. This is about isolationist policies, politics, borders, that kind of stuff. Jinbei was asked to join the crew at the end of the Fishman Island arc. Anyway, we arrive at the castle ruins. It's a great landscape panel. And I don't know about you, but there's something about that panel, about the castle ruins, that reminds me a little bit of Zou. And we know for a fact that the Minks and the Kazuki clan go way back. They've been friends for ages. So all I'm saying is that I don't think it's a coincidence that the architecture in both places is similar. I counted a total of 9 graves on that site. We only know who 5 of those belong to for sure. We assume
that the one behind Odin is his wife's. But even then, that would still leave 5. So I wonder. I don't know. I'm guessing one of them may be Okiku's. Shout out to Oda for being a total troll with the ghost diarrhea thing. Also, Beppo has diarrhea. So that was the place where Law was hanging out previously. He was just chilling. And once they get inside the house and they start talking, that's the exact same setting, the same place that we saw back in the first chapter of Wano when Zoro was thinking back about what Kinemon had told them. And speaking of Zoro, he gets lost, which is like, how convenient that he suddenly the gag kicks in and he decides to get lost here. But there's only 2 reasons for why this happened. Number 1 is either Oda is playing around and he wants to delay the Sanji and Zoro reunion for as much as possible to build as much fan anticipation as he possibly can, or he's going to go on this side quest and do something that is going to pay off later on. It could be both, actually. Yeah, both reasons are not mutually exclusive of each other. The guys still haven't changed, though. Clothing-wise, I mean. Like they're still in their old clothes, or the clothes that they were wearing, I think, aboard the Sunny. Nami's wearing the same thing. Sanji apparently was looking for Luffy underwater, which I think is kind of cool because I guess they were worried that he was drowning. And then later you see Sanji in this group panel, and you can tell that he's already fallen for Okiku. It's funny because since Zoro recently got lost, the crew has kind of remained divided the same way. It's still the Dressrosa group and the Whole Cake Island group, Zoro, Usopp, Robin, and Frankie are still not in the group. All that happened, and the crew's still not together. But I also think that the reason for why Oda wanted to have the Whole Cake Island group here is because I think, technically speaking, the Dressrosa group already knows what Kinemon is about to tell them. It turns out the theory was true. The one I saw, all right, and this is just me, the one I saw that even got close to explaining any of this was one from Marco the Phoenix, the One Piece theorist. So shout out to him. I mean, what the hell? This is crazy. It adds an element to One Piece that I never thought the series would have. The fact that these 5 guys are from the past and jump 20 years into the future also explains why Momonosuke said that he was able to meet Roger, even though he was very young, so he doesn't really remember him that much or the crew that much. Because technically he would have been 4 years old because Roger died 24 years ago. The time jump happened 20 years ago. You do the math. Momonosuke is 8 years old right now. So the time jump happened 4 years after Roger's death. I'll say this again. I'm a little bit worried that Oda has just opened up the floodgates with this chapter by introducing the concept of time travel in One Piece. But I trust him to do the right thing with it. With great power comes great responsibility. So I trust that he will use it responsibly and not create a whole bunch of plot holes that make no sense. It's just a concern that I've had with other stories. Okay? That being said, this was an amazing chapter. Last week was great, but this is a Reverie level chapter. I don't even know how to describe it aside from this was a Reverie level chapter. The implications of this are just tremendous. And if executed properly, they could be mind-blowingly epic. So thank you so much for watching. Like the review if you did. I appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already for more One Piece reviews. And comment down below with your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys. Catch you later.